there is also evidently a lot of distortion and optical illusion present in these images. No one can offer an explanation as to how this composite image is formed, nor has anyone ever provided a satisfactory answer as to what exactly the moon is. And rightly so, for if they could, we would not be in this mess in the first place. While most alternative views of the moon's true nature are rooted in nonsensical theories, such as those dreamt up by many deceivers and boys who never grew up, and who like the idea that aliens...
Oh, these are the nonsensical theories. Okay, sure.
The moon, and there exists on the ground basis
for the Rickroll,
there is one man, however, who spoke of the moon in the years leading up to the space race in the 60s, and who offered a very sensible...
Dude put a Rickroll at the end of a 5-hour video. He deserves to hit us with it, okay?
Insight. In 1965, Professor R. Foster challenged the corrupt scientific complex by stating that landing on the moon was an impossibility. It is an impossibility, according to Foster, because the moon is plasma, and not solid. Here is what he said in an interview.
What is your theory? Well, it is by now rather more than a theory. 10 or 11 years ago, I stated to various scientists that the moon is not a piece of rock, but it is plasma, a plasma phenomenon, cosmic plasma, and that this fact will eventually be confirmed. I made certain predictions which were already confirmed in 1958, and the situation now is coming close to a complete confirmation. Scientific views expressed all over the world now that the moon seems to be of quite different nature, I would assume.
But it's a rock.
Well, that will never happen. Not on the moon. On Mars, on Venus, and other planets, yes.
You can look at it in a telescope, and
like
it's
most
a
that
rock.
speak out, Foster was most likely controlled opposition. Notice that he says it is possible to land on other planets, but not the moon. It is likely that it was his task to introduce a half-truth, that the moon is a plasma phenomenon, only for his claims to be, quote, debunked and proved wrong, unquote, a few years later, after they staged the moon landings.
Since Foster's claim, however, did I just buy into the big NASA conspiracy?
And through this, we see over and over again variant instances of the moon behaving in a way that debunks a lie that it is a ball of rock. We see with our own eyes a semi-transparent moon, either at night or while there is still daylight. We see this.
It's not semi-transparent. Fuck, dude.
Sky through the moon. Sometimes it is even possible to see stars directly through the moon. Many have repeatedly demonstrated that moonlight is colder than the shade at night, and therefore it cannot be reflected sunlight as it possesses no residual warmth. We also know that spherical objects do not reflect light. By the laws of reflection, the light concentrates into a highlight point and does not reflect. You can also see frequent crescent moons when both the moon and the sun are within close proximity of each other, meaning that it is impossible for the sun to be casting the Earth's shadow onto the moon. So if the...
What the fuck are you talking about?
The moon is a plasma phenomenon, then how could this be formed in the first place? It is in the appropriation and demonization of the symbol of the swastika that we find some very interesting insights. The existence of a vast amount of historical literature and symbolism suggestive of a vortex opening in the center of our world is too prevalent to be coincidental.
Oh my god.
We've written much of this before, but strangely enough, in the years preceding and during the complete demonization and eradication of the swastika's association with the vortex, we find some additional information regarding the central vortex that is astonishing. In addition to the appropriation of the swastika as their emblem, the Nazis were also obsessed with a very similar symbol, that of the black sun. Prior to the rise of...
The Nazis knew the Earth was flat. So he might be saying that shortly.
The Nazi regime, there existed an occult secret society within Germany called the Soul Society, sometimes alternatively pronounced
Society,
that had sub-factions within it. One of these sub-societies, we are told, was the Black Sun Society, influenced by the Rosicrucians and other
another sub-society was the Vril Society, and the Vril Society was made up of German women with incredibly long hair that channeled aliens from Aldebaran called the Pleiadians, that gave them plans for UFOs that involved spinning mercury generators at the start, at the center of the craft, which negated gravity, which is what we talked about earlier.
The Thule Society placed special emphasis on the superiority of an alleged Aryan race.
Aryan, got it. I'm so good at this. It only took 4 hours and 12 minutes to get 6 of our bingos.
Mystical powers.
Everybody drink for
the
that.
The Thule Society derived its name from a mythical northern country in Greek legend. Thule was supposedly a land located furthest north. Others have called it Hyperborea. The Thule Society believed, we are told, that an elder race, the Aryans, colonized our Earth, and they were located within the center of our hollow Earth. Admiral
do we have hollow Earth? No.
The military Antarctic explorer also made reference to a hollow Earth with an entrance at the North Pole. The Thule Society also believed that the Black Sun was a big ball of primer materia that existed in the center of the Earth and emanated radiation in the form of real energy. This energy has many names. Some have called it Chi, astral light, odic forces, or orgone. In 1933, the main architect of the event known as the Holocaust,
no. He said that
Castle, a wonderful piece of old infrastructure and technology.
Was 200
he supposedly remodeled the castle, and in doing so, he printed the symbol of the Black Sun into the marble floor of what came to be known as the General's Hall. Much of what has surfaced regarding the German secret societies before and during the Nazi regime is deliberate misinformation, carefully controlled with the sole intention of distraction and demonization. The misinformation regarding these societies has served to further fuel the UFO and alien agenda, which many, such as Jordan Safer, David Wilcock, and Corey Good, have since latched onto and promoted.
No, not fucking Corey Good.
He's actually using Corey Good as a...
He's using Corey Good and David Schaefer. David Schaefer is the dude from fucking Super Soldier Talks, who fucking believes that he was 20 and backed 15 times by the U.S. government. So actually, between 2000 and 2020, he fought 600 years, or 300 years, in a war against the space Nazis.
They are part of the controlled opposition agenda.
They're okay.
The
All right, they're all liars. Thank you. At least we can agree on that, okay? Crazy flat Earth guy. At least we can agree that these guys are fucking
of disclosing information
grifters.
regarding German secret societies was to yoke together a ridiculous concept of a superior alien Aryan race existing within our world's northern core, or opening at the center, with maniacal dictatorship that resulted in gruesome genocide. Or in other words, to make them seem crazier than they already were.
Right.
The controllers of our realm had to appropriate the swastika and eradicate its symbolic association with the Earth's central electromagnetic and physical vortex. And while I do not think there exists a black sun underneath us, if the notion of this seems absurd and far-fetched, just remember that the majority of the world's population have already accepted that there is some kind of dark sphere beneath them, acting as a source of our world's electromagnetic energy. Heliocentrism has convinced so many that inside their little blue ball hoax, there exists a spherical core of solid iron at a temperature of over 5,000 degrees. Their own black sun. Interestingly, they never represent this iron core with the metal's usual black or dark grey colour associations in their illustrations, despite telling us it is a crystalline sphere of solid iron. Surrounding the iron solid core is an outer layer of molten iron, and it is because of this hot liquid iron, we are told, that the Earth has a magnetic toroidal field. And millions have accepted this, and these silly diagrams that resemble Satsumas, despite the hard fact that the furthest depth a human has ever drilled into the Earth is a mere 8 miles. The heliocentric model has to acknowledge an inner core energy source because it is in fact a reality, and our world cannot exist without it. It is likely that the notion of a black sun beneath us is more distraction, although it is not as absurd as the heliocentric Satsuma model. We will return to this later. What is important now, however, is that not only have we another instance of the concept of a black core at the center of our realm, and another reference to a central vortex and opening, but we also have reference to energy, or what the Fool Society called vril, radiating out of this opening. And if this is truly the case, then we have a theoretical model in which both the formation of the sun and moon makes complete sense. What I am going to try and convey now is
Why
complex,
does it make
and I will do my
complete
best.
sense all
I
of
need
a
you first of
sudden?
all to forget every model of our Earth you have become familiar with.
Oh, I need you to just forget every model about the Earth. All right, let me just dump 3rd grade fucking planet science out of my brain. I'll just do that.
Things may not make sense at first, but by the end it will. Let's start with the realm and the firmament, and then a central opening. And now let's incorporate our known world, as outlined on the moon by Sturgios. And finally, let's add the source, or electromagnetic coil beneath. Whether a magnetic rock or an electromagnetic coil, the source of our world's magnetic field is located at the center and beneath, and any source of intense
Imagine if somebody
electromagnetism will
raised their
produce strong
child like
radiation.
this.
No one can say indefinitely, but it is highly likely that the concentrated plasma that we call the moon is a result of a unique form of radiation, similar to X-rays, that emanate from this source via an opening or vortex.
What?
X-rays, or very strong radiation beams, would, by the laws of physics, emanate from this central vortex in diverging straight lines.
now we care
like
about
X-rays,
the laws of
they would
physics.
also be invisible. The divergent beams will continue up until coming into contact with the firmament itself. X-ray beams differ from light beams and do not tend to reflect. X-rays are like a super powerful form of light, and because their wavelengths are shorter than ordinary light's wavelengths, it means their frequency is much higher. Because of this, X-rays can travel through objects that ordinary light cannot, and it means that X-rays are not reflected easily. There are not many materials that reflect, scatter, refract, or redirect
does
X-rays.
the firmament
And while I'm not strictly saying that X-rays are the cause,
reflect
any
them?
form of strong radiation beams would behave similarly. There do exist some materials that can reflect high energy rays, and it was a man named Lawrence Bragg in 1913 that discovered that crystalline structures reflect X-rays.
Oh my
That's
God.
right, crystalline structures, a crystalline firmament.
Oh my god. I was...
Is used, for example, to
You
focus
see
monochromatic
how
light,
I'm like
and there is a device called a
predicting the
monochromator
next
that uses
line
curved crystal
every
mirrors
fucking
to reflect
time.
X-rays to focus monochromatic light. Standard monochromators use a prism to break down the light. This is a very familiar image, and Wikipedia displays it for everyone to see. It is now associated with an infamous music album. What is the title of that album? They are telling us. This means we're right on track. Radiation beams reflected off of the crystal firmament would likely be redirected down, off-center, and into the ionosphere above our heads. The same ionosphere in which the ethereal electromagnetic energy was harvested from. It is here that the beams will converge and concentrate and generate the plasma phenomenon we call the moon. The idea of electromagnetic rays reflecting from the firmament and converging in the ionosphere may seem preposterous, but there are many homemade experiments you can conduct yourself to prove the power of concentrating light rays, as seen here.
You're using a big fucking mirror to reflect light onto a piece of fucking charcoal and lighting it on fire.
The rays of the sun, reflected in the concave mirror, are able to produce intense heat and start a fire. The reflected light rays focus into a point to generate energy. And remember, radiation beams, akin to X-rays, are much more powerful than light rays. If the moon is a point of focused, condensed plasma, then it has to occur within one of the layers in the ionosphere above us. All the various inert noble gases in our ionosphere appear at differing layers and altitudes. We looked at how these are charged by the sun's electromagnetism to form the plasma sky. At a certain altitude in the ionosphere, there are two layers of neon and helium gas. It is likely that the sun forms in a similar fashion within these layers. After all, helium is linguistically very similar to Helios. It is likely, however, that the moon is formed at the level of altitude in which the gas krypton is present. Krypton is known for its phosphorescent white light. it is also used to create non-thermal or cold plasma, as demonstrated by contemporary scientists developing this field today. The primary reason that the moon's light is cold and not hot like the sun's is not known, but it is likely due to a polarity produced by their interaction with our electromagnetic field in the ionosphere, the moon being the dielectric negative polarity to the sun's positive charge.
So the moon
craters
doesn't
seen on
even
the moon
exist.
are likely from the generation of this plasma. Perhaps it is some kind of plasma emulsion that displays a kind of outgassing or bubbling, much like we see with urethane paint defects.
No, you can't. The craters on the Earth, on the moon, have been mapped, bro.
Perhaps it is some kind of plasma emulsion that displays a kind of outgassing or bubbling, much like we see with urethane paint defects. Recently, bizarre theories have emerged that we live within one of these craters on the moon. This is not correct. The moon is some kind of phosphorescent, concentrated plasma, and not a solid object. You can see the formation of this plasma and its craters right here. It is not solid.
Where?
It is
You're
light.
just showing
And this is
me.
great because we have a very realistic and working model as to how the moon is formed. What we don't have, however, is an explanation as to how the composite image on its face is formed. As I said before, the image we are seeing on the moon is akin to a composite X-ray photograph of our greater realm, and it is not an active reflection, but rather a historical moment captured in time. And of course,
No, because the fucking face of the moon has been the same forever across all cultures. Even the Chinese have the exact same image of the moon as us. Like, for thousands of years. Chinese history goes back fucking a bajillion years.
Luminosity, and also a steadfast image, captured at some point in time that does not seem to change. We only ever see this image on the moon, and it never changes. This strange and mysterious image.
Because it's a rock! Why would it change if it's a rock?
That has puzzled and inspired millions could be a result of a natural, organic phenomenon, or perhaps even artificial. Again, only the controllers know. The word photo originates from the Greek photos. It means light. Hence we have words such as photosynthesis, which means the synthesis of light, in which plants harvest light energy and convert it into chemical energy. A photon is the quantum of the electromagnetic field, including electromagnetic radiation, such as light. A huge misconception is the notion that photographic imaging is not a natural, organic phenomenon. This is not correct. The word photograph means light drawing. The concept of natural light sensitive material is well understood. Our bodies begin to darken when exposed to too much sunlight. Depending on the exposure to the UV, our bodies can develop tan lines. The light literally draws on us.
I just
Certain
keep touching
textures
my
and textiles
face to
can fade or come to the
facepalm,
surface when exposed to
and I
light.
just get
And there exists natural
greasier
camera
and
obscura.
greasier.
A natural camera obscura occurs when a darkened space with a hole permits light rays to enter from outside the space, resulting in a projected image of the space outside inside the darkened area. We can even see projected images of a solar eclipse here, on the ground, underneath a leaf canopy, due to the holes in the leaves.
Yeah.
Natural camera obscura was, of course, the inspiration for the early development of photographic technology. Interestingly, the noble gas krypton, the same gas present in our ionosphere, has been used for years, we are told, as an integral component in camera flashes for high-speed photography. It is also an essential component in hyperpolarized MRI scanners. There is also a possibility that the face of the moon is not a natural phenomenon, but was a result of an experiment. Photographic and X-ray films are created through a fusion of a gelatin emulsion with microscopic silver crystals. Because of this, exposure to light is able to capture an invisible latent image. During light exposure,
the moon is a camera glitch? What?
Silver halide crystals grow to visible sizes, and this is what is called printing out the image. Microscopic silver was essential in producing traditional photographic images. Without it, the technology would not have been possible in the first place. Interestingly, in their alignment of noble metals with astronomical bodies, the alchemists designated the moon as having rulership over the metal silver. The birth of modern photography began in 1800, we are told, when the uncle of Charles Darwin tried to capture the image, producing a camera obscura.
Early alchemy basically just went by, oh, this looks cool,
the use of silver nitrate was developed further by Louis Daguerre, who went on to birth the daguerreotype and modern photography. But what is interesting is that silver nitrate goes by another name. They called it lunar caustic, in homage to the alchemists' association between the moon and silver. It's also quite interesting that many Masonic representations of the alchemists depict the sun and moon as reflected rays. And what are the coincidences that the alchemists, who probably didn't exist in the manner we are told they did, associated the moon with the very metal in which traditional photography is impossible without? This is not a coincidence. Those of the old world knew what the moon was, and perhaps an older civilization that came before them, and that were also technologically advanced, had a hand in rendering the image on the moon. It's not that much of a preposterous notion, considering that we are continually experimenting with things on a cosmological scale today, staging fake rocket launches that sometimes get caught on the firmament, developing artificial suns,
that sometimes get caught on the firmament. He needs to keep
Humans have always
bringing
overstretched
that
their
up.
ambitions when it comes to the luminaries, and I don't see why advanced civilizations of the past would have been any different. But how this composite image phenomenon came to be is not important for our journey. It's what it shows us that is important, and perhaps it is best to leave the moon shrouded in mystery. Whether a natural or artificial X-ray photographic image, what is important is its composite nature. The image we witness here is a combination of at least two fixed images that are superimposed upon one another. The first image we are seeing, as Sturgios' groundbreaking work has shown over and over again, is a skeletal outline of our realm's land masses, akin to an X-ray, and in a way we have never seen before.
No, but where the fuck? That's not what that looks
we see
like.
all the continents of land we associate with Earth, or what is more appropriately termed the known world.
That's not what the Earth looks like, though. That's not at all what the Earth looks like.